Hi, welcome to Tea with Mali. We're here today with Brigitta Toruño of Uno Translation. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Mali.
So it is a pleasure to have you here on the show. I wanted to present you to the world because of the work that you do. We are here in the Washington, D.C. area where there's so much culture, so many different languages being spoken, and that is the area of expertise that you have with your business. And before we go into that, I wanted to ask you, what led you to start a company focusing on languages?
That's a great question, and really I feel like I was born into this profession. My parents were from South America, my father from Argentina, my mother from Ecuador. They met here in the Washington, D.C. area, got married, and I was born here. And I grew up actually in Alexandria, Virginia. It's my hometown. And Spanish was my first language. My parents didn't speak English very well. And so once I did start to learn English, which was after first grade, because when I went into kindergarten, I was completely lost. I didn't understand any word of English. I didn't have a teacher who supported me, and there wasn't ESL way back then. And it wasn't until first grade that I had a teacher who spent a little extra time with me, and I was able to catch up with speaking, with writing, with reading. And so as I was learning English, my parents had different health issues. When I was 9 years old, they purchased their first home, which I helped them with. I was the one speaking to the real estate agent. I understood interest rates and my father's monthly income and things that kids shouldn't necessarily have to know. But despite that, I learned to love it. I learned to love helping, and there were many health situations. I've lost my parents, unfortunately. They, at pretty young ages, I lost them. But you know, I was there, and I was their interpreter, and I worked in marketing and communications in the corporate world, and had the opportunity to go to Fannie Mae to start their translation area many years ago. And I did that for 6 years and absolutely found my passion. And I thought, I need to do this on my own. So it's been 16 years now.
Wow, congratulations. You were talking about being growing up in the household where your parents didn't speak language, English anyway. And, you know, for me, when you were sharing that story, I went right back to my childhood. And when you talked about having to look at the interest, or understanding interest rates, and, you know, talking to the real estate agent about buying the home, I remember one of my first memories was also when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I was opening up an envelope, and it was a bill, and being able to actually translate like what that meant and how much it was going to cost for this, and then actually writing out the check because my parents didn't read or write English. And I really know that at least in the DC area, there's a lot of families who still have that similar situation, right? Yeah, so the work of translating was a responsibility of the child, so the children became the parent. And it's one of the reasons why we get along so well, because we understand that path, and both being in marketing and communication, how critical it is. And for us, it was a source of survival. So many people take it for granted, being able to communicate, but it was definitely something that was a necessity in our household. Yeah. So as you think back to that experience in your life and how it carried you into the work of translation, do you still philosophically believe in the business world of translation, that it's essential and a necessity, or is it, as some companies might consider, a luxury?
I feel it's a complete necessity. From the standpoint of the written word, which is translation, and the spoken word, interpretation, I am so happy that now public schools, many have interpreters in their system, which is very good, because I remember moments when I was the interpreter between my parents and my teacher. Now, luckily, they were always good reports, and I could say that back in Spanish.
Would you tell them otherwise?
No, I wouldn't have. But I do know of situations where children are put to be the interpreter, the middle person, and maybe they're not great reports, and they're still telling their parents, you know, everything's lovely, you know. So it's a difficult situation for the child. So I'm really glad that there are interpreters now in the school systems, that there are interpreters in hospitals and healthcare systems, because that was another situation where as a child I had to tell my parents what the doctor was saying, or tell the doctor what my mother was you know, symptoms that she was feeling, and I may not have been saying the exact correct thing. And so that's a very big issue. So I'm glad that organizations are investing in this very important field of interpretation. And of course, there's the written word, which is so essential for many reasons, from the crisis situations to just getting the word across through marketing and companies that are trying to grow globally, that they can do that.
Yeah. Or even the essential aspect of health and wellness. I mean, so many families who have adults and parents who aren't, English isn't their first language, or any language, whatever country you're in, watching this, and if it's in a different language, you're missing out on such critical information that can give you the right care, you know, get the right support, or even save your life.
That's right.
So, you know, the work of translating interpretation is critical, especially as the global market is becoming more and more of a unit, right? We're exchanging so much information so fast.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about your business in terms of when you launched it. What was that like to come out and say, I have a translation company? Was it something that was easy for you to kind of move into, or was it really hard to convince people this was a necessity?
It was a very good time to start it. It was still a business that was somewhat new in terms of in the translation industry, and organizations and Fortune 500 companies sort of buying into it and understanding the importance of it. Because I was working at a Fortune 500 company, I was lucky that they became a client. So already we were at a high level of corporations that understood that within their strategy, reaching out to other immigrant groups within the U.S. was very essential. From there, I reached out to healthcare, because that was another area that was very close to my heart. And so right away, I had a wonderful client that started that I still have to this day, you know, 16 years later. So I feel very blessed with that. But I reached out to areas that were very close to my heart. So the financial industry in terms of mortgages and banks, and because I guess I was looking at issues that I went through with my family, and in healthcare. So it was not a challenge. It was, I looked forward to every opportunity of being able to reach out to new potential customers, and the ones that were at the place where they said, I see this, you know, they automatically wanted the business. Yeah.
Well, having you on the show is kind of the epitome of what Tea with Malia is about. We talk about uncovering gifts and talents and also life experiences that lead us to our calling and our purpose. And as you were talking about going into work in the mortgage industry, and just having finished saying that, you know, you remember having to translate interest rates and stuff when you were a child.
Right, that's right.
And being able to see the connection and why you pursued healthcare. Everything that we decide to do in life has to come from our frame of reference, because that's what we know. And so, you know, as I get to watch you evolve as a person, and also as your business evolves, I also see that you continue to expand, because initially we talked about having just a few languages, mainly your native tongue, which is Spanish, but now you have over 100 languages.
That's right, yeah.
So talk about that. Let's talk about the evolution. What was the next language, and how did you decide to move with the next language and the next language and so on?
Yeah, I just, we started with a handful of languages, definitely Spanish and some Romance languages, but we quickly moved into Asian languages, because here in the Washington, D.C. area, there's a large population of Asians, and there are there's a lot of need for having information in those languages. So we quickly moved to Asian languages. We moved to a number of African languages, and we just found that it was very important to have people who were very professional translators, because we don't use just somebody who happens to speak the language. And so it was very important to us to make sure that we were ready to manage languages for people from throughout the whole world.
Where do you find these people? Where do you find all of these brilliant translators and interpreters? Do they find you? Do you post somewhere? Or is it just through word of mouth?
A lot of them at this point find us. So we receive resumes on a daily basis, a handful of resumes every day from very qualified people. But initially we went to the trade association for translation, which is called the American Translators Association. And it's actually in Alexandria, based in Alexandria. But there are a couple of other organizations too. And so they attract translators that are professionals, so they're qualified. It means they're working in their native language. They have a translation degree from their native country, because many countries throughout the world have translation degrees. And in the U.S., it's just starting. Some of them are just starting to offer that. And then they have certifications. We make sure they have 5 years experience. We check references, sample work, all of that. And so that's how we started, by looking at the trade associations. And so we have many translators that have been with UNO for the 16 years we've been in business. So we feel very fortunate and blessed, because they're wonderful, wonderful translators, highly experienced, and we feel fortunate that they're working with us.
And what type of translation work is typically coming to you in terms of, are they typically commercial and business collateral, marketing collateral, or are they books, are they training? What type of work comes through to you?
Yeah, we do a lot of work in the commercial industry versus government. And so we do a lot in the marketing arena, so we do everything from flyers, brochures, directories, but we also do more technical materials and legal materials. We'll work with organizations, legal contracts, agreements, software types of manuals, and we also do work with public relations and advertising, so we work with putting ads together for companies. Really, when we work with an organization, we try to look at their entire communications and how they're outreaching right now in English, and see how we can put a strategic plan together for them for their other languages.
What's it like to run a business as a female executive, CEO, and being able to say that it's been running for 16 years? I mean, has it been smooth sailing for you? Has there been challenges?
There's been smooth sailing, and there have been challenges. Definitely. I don't, I think part of being a business owner is being able to have the ability to handle the challenges as they come along. And I feel very blessed about everything. I mean, every morning I wake up with a smile on my face, despite what may be facing me that day. And yeah, there are definitely some difficult moments, but I feel, like I said, I feel very blessed about having the business, about being able to run it. I feel about my clients. And then I think the biggest part of it is that I feel that I am actually touching people's lives by helping them be able to understand different things in their native language. And that gives me tremendous satisfaction.
When you go out into the community and you tell people the work that you do, what kind of reaction do you get? You're telling people, I run a company who actually translates material, all kinds of material, important documents, into over 100 languages. What's typically the expressions or the feedback that you get?
Well, sometimes it's utter surprise that they had no idea that such a company existed, and they had never thought about if this material or this website was in another language. How did it happen? So I have to explain it to them. Some of them don't want to know. I mean, if they're in an industry that is just not at a point where they're putting materials in other languages, they don't have an interest for knowing details at this point, but there's always an opportunity in the future, perhaps, for them. And then there are other people who are just fascinated, people who are interested in language and culture, and that their organizations are just about at the point where they're going to be reaching out to either immigrant groups in the U.S. or into our global marketplace.
How do you go about marketing your organization and the work that you do? How much of it is you being out there as the public figurehead for the company, and how much is it your team or your staff?
I have been very fortunate that throughout most of the 16 years, it's been word of mouth.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I feel very blessed about that. I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, I thought, maybe I should go out and and start doing some networking. And so I did that. I attended I'm in Loudoun County, so I attended some Loudoun chamber events, Dulles chamber events. I mean, there's some wonderful chambers here in this metropolitan area, and some wonderful organizations for women business owners. So I attended those, and I found everybody to be wonderful and welcoming, and so that I was slowly able to build the name of UNO and of my presence of being in these different networking events, and so I was able to gain some business through that.
Mm-hmm. Would you say, and I'm really reflecting upon all the business owners that are out there who might be watching, how critical is it to network? Did you find it to be a powerful experience both on a professional level and a personal level, or was it something that, because the word of mouth was so strong, it was more for you just to be out and socialize?
I believe that the word of mouth continues to be the strongest way we get clients, but we have gotten a number of clients through networking, and from a professional level, it's been completely worthwhile, and on a personal level, it has been very worthwhile. I have met some wonderful people that have become good friends, that have great hearts, and that I just feel so fortunate to have met,
right,
including you.
Thank you. You're so sweet. We talked a lot about your past and your experience and what led you to this work. How do you share that with the community, and how do you inspire other business owners to pursue their passions, to go out and pursue things that matter to them, and how they can give back to the community? What type of work do you do?
Yeah, that's I love to give back to the community. It's such a huge part of me that I feel so blessed of what God has put on my lap, and the hard work that I've put into what I've done. And so it's very important to me. I am on the board of a number of nonprofits in the area, and it's a tremendous satisfaction. I'm on the board of the Devotion to Children, which is a nonprofit in Fairfax, and they do great work helping single parents in the area by paying for childcare so that they can go to work. And as you know, Rosemary Tranlauer is the founder and president of that nonprofit, and she's written a book, and she's just done great work around this area. I'm also on the board of an organization called Mobile Hope, and that's in Loudoun County, and that one was founded by Donna Fortier, and what they do is something that's a huge passion for me. It's about food insecurity and helping children that are homeless and precariously housed in Loudoun County. There are over 900 children that are in that situation in Loudoun County, believe it or not, because it's the first or second wealthiest county in the U.S. So people are always surprised to hear those numbers. But they have a location, and I'm able to go out on the bus, because that's why it's called mobile. There is a bus that goes into neighborhoods, and I'm able to use my Spanish to help the families and their children with clothes and with food. So it gives me tremendous satisfaction. I also do mentoring of Latina girls in the area, and my daughter and my daughter is also an entrepreneur, and she blames me for that. We do a mother-daughter workshop, and it's through the Girl Scouts, and they have a program called Encuentro de Chicas Latinas. And so we do a program with the girls that are between 12 and 18 years old, and the Girl Scouts gathers them a weekend for a workshop, and so that they can get sort of what the experience of what it is to be part of the Girl Scouts and to be in workshops. And I hope that what my daughter and I are doing are inspiring them and mentoring them to understand that they can dream big, that they just need to reach for the stars, whatever that is for them, and and my hope is that they find their passion, because there's nothing like working in your passion.
I agree. When you talked about your daughter and you talked about the work that you guys get to do together, which is a blessing in itself, what motivates and inspires you every day? You know, I know you love your family, but let's talk a little bit about that. When you are having the difficult times in your life, or when things may not be perfectly happening at work and in the industry, how do you continue to keep that smile on your face every morning, like you said? What are some of the practices that you personally do? Because we all need a little help in getting tips and advice on staying positive.
That's right, yeah. I have found a number of things that have really helped me. And number one, I have to say, is God. My belief in God is very strong, and I feel that what I do to myself, in the sense of the good, the bad, is a reflection of how I love God. So I always think of that in terms of wanting to do the best for myself, because that means I'm honoring God and myself. From there, I'm a huge believer in a lot of Buddhist teachings. And that's somewhat new for me. I mean, I have been following the teachings for 20 years or so, but also during those 20 years, I had started meditation and yoga. So those are very important to me. I meditate every morning for 30 minutes. I've been doing that regularly for 3 years now.
Makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference, you know, to be able to have the opportunity for to quiet the mind for even that a few moments. And a lot of people say, I can't do that. You know, when I close my eyes, it's just chatter, chatter, chatter. And that's okay. I always tell people you have to start somewhere, even if it's a minute of trying to work with the discipline of quieting the mind. I think makes a huge difference. Yoga, exercising. I also do massages, and I do cranial sacral therapy. I do energy work.
That's great.
So I have found a lot of different ways of coping, of what my coping skills. And there was a time when I didn't know what coping meant, many years ago. So I have learned different ways of managing that.
Right. How has that, when you said you didn't know what even coping meant, and now that you're taking the time to invest in all these different practices to cope, to channel, to release, how has that changed your life, and how has that changed your everyday outlook?
It has been a tremendous change for me. You know, the last couple of years I've had a lot of positive change in my life. Difficult, but change can be difficult. But I really felt it was important for me to stand in my power. It was important for me to be true to myself, to align my mind, body, spirit, and so I've worked on that, and it's been a wonderful experience,
When you talk about the things that inspire you and keep you smiling every day, and you go out into the world and you're on the bus and you're driving, you know, on the bus to see these families and some who don't have families, to be able to be in a place now and honoring also your parents, right? We talk a lot about the presence of energy in your mom and your dad, and how important it is that they continue to inspire you to do what you do. And that's something that, you know, people say it gets a little deep when we talk about this, but a part of living your passion, a part of choosing to have a life's calling and uncovering that in your life is legacy. And it makes what you stand for eternal. And I think about that also with your parents and with my dad, and like even when I'm gardening and I'm teaching somebody else how to garden, it's not because I came with learning. It was because the legacy of my father is that he loved to garden. He taught me. So the generations and generations of work that we do has to come from somewhere, and it relates back to translation to me anyway, because language or communication at whatever language, even if it's sign language, is a way for us to stay connected to traditions, to learnings, and knowledge. So does that reflect also in your work and the philosophy and the mission of your company?
Yeah, that's very true. Family is very important to me, and in terms of my business, you know, the mission of my company is that we are a conduit to be able to help people to communicate from whatever language to whatever language. And so I think that was definitely something that my parents taught me, and my mother, she was very musical, and music is another language. It's another way of communication, and so I learned from a very young age how important communication was, because if there was something that was blocking, such as being able to speak English in terms of my parents, it was an impediment. It was an impediment to being able to grow. And so it's very important to me to be that conduit to help people at all levels, from all walks of life, to be able to communicate.
Yeah, and being able to communicate also means that you can live in full expression. Because when you're feeling muted, at least when I've had in times of my life where I felt like I should hush or should not shine my light, because there's a lot of prejudice and things that I grew up with, and I was so afraid to shine. However you interpret the word shine, right? But in my case, it was like, I can't be too smart. I can't, have my accolades out there because someone's gonna say something evil, and that carries on with you in life. And I think a part of translation and a part of being able to communicate, a part of being able to interpret when someone says, hey, I'm proud of who I am, and it doesn't have to go straight into, oh, you're being egotistical, but rather I'm really just being myself, and I want to share myself with the world. So with the work of, especially with marketing, and the work that I do with messaging from the heart, and the work that you do, being able to actually share your authentic heart and what you mean to say in every language with any audience you want, it's magic. Yeah. It wasn't there before. Exactly. In our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, it wasn't there. It was whatever you grew up in, or whatever community you lived in. Now we have all this access to everybody in the world who might be attracted to what we have to offer. And I just feel like that's an opportunity that you give also for everyone who wants to not only just focus on their business brand, but their personal brand to have a place in the world. Right.
Yeah, that's very important to me. To me, the personal and the business go hand in hand. I mean, it should be aligned. I don't believe that there should be, this is my business persona and this is my personal. And it took me a while. I think that the last couple of years, again, with a lot of work that I've done on myself, I realized that that's how it had to be. That it was okay to shine, to be myself, to show who I really am, to the world in both business and personal.
When you think about the vision for the company, and I mean, in the last 16 years, how much it has grown and expand. I know that you want it to continue to grow and expand, but what's the vision for Uno Translation?
The vision is to continue to be that conduit, but we have other services now beyond just doing language translation and interpretation. We also offer narration services, so we do translation of, let's say, videotapes, and let's say it's safety tapes or different things that companies need. So we put those scripts into Spanish, and then we do the narration. So that's very exciting that we can offer companies that. And we also are doing a lot of consulting. So I'm helping companies with everything from looking at global etiquette. So if they have a lot of employees that are traveling throughout the different countries for business purposes, we sit down with them to have them understand the particulars about that country that they're going to, what they need to understand, from even the handshake to the business card, how to hand it to the other person, attending meetings and gifts, and looking at a lot of different things. And then we also help companies with cross-cultural awareness, and we do a lot of those things now.
Wow, it's fantastic. I love seeing companies grow and expand. And in several of our previous guests, we talked about the evolution of business, and we talked about how the consumer and our clients are the ones that help shape us and shift us into a direction that we probably didn't even consider ever happening. Has that happened with your business?
It has, absolutely. I think that it is sort of a natural evolution of what we're working on, and because culture is so important to me, I want to be able to spread that so that companies are doing things correctly with their clients, with their future clients, and because it is a global marketplace, and we need to be all out there. All of us need to be out there. So it's good if we're doing it correctly. Yeah.
What are you most proud of in life, in the world? What are you most proud of when you look back at all the years and everything that you've gone through personally as well as professionally? What are some of your proudest moments?
I have to say my children. My children. Yeah, I'm very proud of them.
So what are they doing now?
My daughter has her own business. She's had it for about 4 years, and she is a dance therapist. She got her master's degree in that, and she also is certified as a children's yoga teacher. So her business is called Whole Me Programs, and she works with different schools throughout the area, Montessori's and other schools, where she offers yoga and movement classes to the children, and she's absolutely adored. She adores the kids, and she's married, and she's expecting a baby.
Wow!
So that's exciting.
Congratulations!
Thanks. And my son is he received his bachelor's degree in international relations, and he's working with Loud and Water in a utility company where he does communications work with them, and he's using his Spanish there. Both of the kids are fluent in Spanish. Yeah, it was their first language too.
Wow, how did you manage that? Because that is very difficult to manage, having the children be fluent. I mean, I was fortunate to have my grandmother at home when my parents worked as much as they did, so I do speak the language, but for many families, it's not as easy.
You're right. Their father speaks Spanish, so at home we only spoke Spanish, and so that helped a lot. There were grandmothers on both sides that lived with us at different times during the kids' lives, because I always worked outside the home up until I started my business. And so they only spoke Spanish. So there was no choice if the kids wanted a snack or this, they had to say it in Spanish.
That's good.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate, because I know it's something that families struggle with in terms of being able to to teach the children the second language. Yeah.
And also for children too. I mean, when you're growing up, you want to fit in and you want to speak what everybody else is speaking, especially when you go to school. But I know a lot of my friends and colleagues who have parents from different parts of the world, they grow up and they're like, gosh, I wish I would have taken it more seriously. You know, I wish I would have been able to do this, because like you mentioned earlier, a lot of countries in the world, they have translation as a study, as a field of study.
Yeah.
They speak multiple languages in many countries.
Yes.
And so, you know, when you get older and you realize, wow, I could have more options by traveling international, living abroad, if I had this, it comes right back down to, wow, you know, wish I would have been able to do that more.
Yeah.
So as you evolve, we talked about your business and your vision for your business, but I want to talk about your vision for you. What is next for you?
Well, I feel like I'm on a journey. It's a lifelong journey of learning, and learning means wonderful opportunities, and it also means going through lessons in life, and that's fine. You know, when I am going through what I call the gifts in life, it's difficult, but I try to stay in the moment. I'm very mindful. It's something that I work on a lot, of being very present during all moments. Yeah.
What is your community of support like? I mean, what are your friends like? Are they usually business owners as well, or is it just runs the gamut in terms of your support system?
Yeah, my support system and my friends run the gamut. Some of them are also entrepreneurs. Others are friends that I've had for a long time. Others are, you know, from the community that I work with a lot. And I do have a number of client friends, because I have had many of my clients for many years that we have become friends now. I also work with a meditation coach, and his name is Dr. Elliot Dasher, and he's written a number of books, and he's just been a tremendous support for me. And as I continue to evolve and understand meditation more, and also the Buddhist teachings. And so he's been a tremendous support.
Do you have any words of wisdom that you want to impart on budding entrepreneurs, or anyone who has just launched a business and maybe just in the early stages of what do I do, how do I stay in the game? And I'd like to ask if you wouldn't mind doing it first in Spanish, because we do have a lot of people around the globe that speak Spanish, but they're also entrepreneurial. So do you mind sharing a little bit of words of wisdom in Spanish, and then maybe being able to translate that into English for us?
That's fine. Yeah. Me da mucho gusto poder hablar con las personas que están interesadas en comenzar su propio negocio. Es algo que es muy precioso, es algo especial, y hay que tener bastante perseverancia por dentro para poder seguir adelante con el negocio. Pero yo les deseo toda suerte en encontrar lo que es la pasión que ustedes tienen para que puedan emprender su negocio, porque es algo en realidad muy lindo poder tener algo propio, y uno se sacrifica la vida por hacer todo lo que uno pueda con ese negocio. I want to say that I love working with entrepreneurs, and especially women who are trying to find their passion. That's what I want for them, to be able to find their passion, and to realize that it is hard work, and it is sacrifice, and it requires a lot of perseverance to continue your business day after day. But when you have that passion, it makes it so much easier and special that you do work hard, and it's a pleasure to do it every day so that you can succeed.
And it is beautiful to have your own thing too, where you're going to work hard to be able to know that you're doing it because it's your heart and it's with all great intention. So And I got a chance to practice my Spanish, so that was good. I got to hear that.
Oh,
and
good, good.
It's wonderful to know that you are also in alignment with your passion, and you continue to do this work. And the great thing about having your own business and also being in business for a long time is now you can actually teach, and you can actually mentor, and you actually bring somebody else on board that may just be starting off or have such trepidation, whether it's a business or just a life transition or change, because you've been through it all. You know, do you see yourself doing more and more of the speaking and of the traveling and touring and really making change around the world happen?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very important to me. I've been speaking a lot more to women entrepreneur groups, and also speaking on cultural awareness, Hispanic outreach. I love to do that, and I'm so fortunate to have that opportunity to speak more about that.
Have you seen a lot of change in the Hispanic market in terms of business ownership and entrepreneur here, especially in our region? Have you seen a tremendous change in the way that people are settling up in their businesses?
Yeah, it's a tremendous change, and it's wonderful because it's a very positive thing that the numbers have just quadrupled in terms of the number of Latino entrepreneurs. So I think that is great, and that we all support each other, because in my mind there is no such thing as competition. Right. To me, it's every organization that starts, I want to help them, and I think there's enough work to go around always. That I think that I am just thrilled for other entrepreneurs. I also have a lot of compassion and understanding what a new business is going through, because I've been there. So I want to be able to hold their hand through it.
And what type of businesses, as well as partners, are you seeking for your organization and for yourself?
Well, in terms of partners, we are looking for organizations that are interested in language and culture. We like to partner, with nonprofits and be able to help them reach their goals. Yeah.
And when you go out into the world now, because you do a lot more networking, right? Are you a lot more interested in a specific market in terms of your personal time spent at networking groups? Like, do you actually seek out a specific demographic that group serves? Or is it more related to your business needs and the mission of the business? So how much is it you being able to literally for your personal desires to grow, and how much is it for the business growth?
It's both. Yeah, I definitely mix it. We do. I go to some Hispanic PRSA meetings through public relations, and so that's a little bit of both, because we do public relations also, and we also work with starting to do more networking with the international groups here in the DC area versus more of the networking of more general areas. Yeah.
And how do you keep your employees and consultants that are all over the map engaged?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I am serving them. That I am so fortunate and blessed to have the employees work with me, to have the consultants, which we have over 500 of, that I feel so blessed that they want to work with me. And so I'm serving them, and I want to be able to support them and their needs as they need it.
Mm-hmm. And are there any lessons learned that you can share when it relates to running a business and all the stuff that you've had to go through to still be standing 16 years later? Any lessons learned?
Definitely lots of lessons learned, and the gifts.
Let's call them gifts, right?
The gifts. I think that part of it is to really, really start with a good business plan. As much as you hear people say that, it's so true, because it really helps you to work on to seeing that on paper and putting your thoughts down in a concise way that will help you 1, 3, 5 years down the line. Aside from having a great business plan, it's also about having a good support system. So you have perhaps mentors that you find that are willing to help you as you're working your business and going through the gifts, the challenges that happen, especially at the beginning. And mistakes will happen, and it's okay. There's no such thing as failure, I think. You know, we learn from all the different things, and we usually won't do that again. Right. And then there's also somebody that I really admire. His name is Chris Brogan, and he has an organization called Owners Media Group. And I'm very lucky to be one of the writers for his digital magazine. But he's all about the network and having a community of people that you work with and that are close to you and that you help each other. He calls it manchu, which is an Okinawan word, which means like a family. Not necessarily your blood relatives, but a family that helps you. And I think that is so key. If people could really look at that from the very beginning of starting their business, I think it's a huge, huge thing.
I think that's a very key point, just to find your tribe, your manchu, your family early on in the business game. And also, not just in business, but when there's a major life transition, whether it's a divorce or a breakup or even just, you know, something tragic or something unfortunate, losing a loved one, being able to call upon your tribe very early on makes the healing process or the transition. And sometimes the transition means truly transforming your life.
Absolutely.
You know? Because things like that are very difficult and hard are usually there to kind of wake us up.
That's right. They come to us for a reason, and there's usually no stopping it, but it's there because you go through the transformation and the change, and I think you come out a better person.
When you think about your legacy, and you know you're going to be a grandma soon, and you think about life when you're not here anymore, and all that you've built, everything, personally, professionally, what would you like people to say about your purpose?
I actually have given that a little bit of thought as I continue to go up in age. I think that it's about, I want to leave the legacy of she was a nurturing and kind and gentle person, and yet assertive, and was able to build this company, you know, from scratch, and that she always did her best. And I think that Don Miguel Ruiz, his the 4 agreements, are something that I strive for. Right. You know, so doing my best and not making assumptions, and those are just things that I want to strive for and live my life with.
How many people in the world know that about you in terms of your legacy? How many people in the world know that these are the things that you ultimately desire? I mean, is it a small community of people that you trust, or are you in a place in your life where you're just ready to shout that out to the world and be completely transparent?
Oh, I'm ready to shout it out.
And hence you're here?
Yes.
So that's really fantastic. I watch your growth, and I think that what you've taught me also is to always stay graceful. And grace is a big deal when you're constantly running a business that's with the market up and down, you know, all over the place, right? So grace under fire is something that when I think of you, it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And then I also know Brigitta, fortunately. I know her very well, and I know where she gets her grace from. And so if you could share one more words of wisdom around going through tragedies and trauma. You've lost your parents. You have had some major life changes as well recently. How do you stay graceful? How do you continue to make it so that nobody else suffers as you're processing and as you're maybe angry at the world for the moment or what have you? Because that's really critical. What we feel inside and how that translates into how we make other people feel sometimes isn't always healthy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that there's I want to say I've been graced with an inner strength that my grandmother had. And my grandmother was a very special lady, and I was very close to her. She was like my second mother, and I saw that inner strength in her. You know, she went through a lot of issues and gifts in her life, and you would never have thought that if you met her, because she was full of energy and life and nurturing and love. And she was a pure soul, pure soul. And I think I was blessed with capturing that from her. Yeah.
As you were sharing that, it sounded like a legacy piece or something that someone would say about you.
Oh.
And I share that because as you were talking, it really brought my grandmother to the forefront as well,
Yeah.
because I have, like you, a very special relationship with my grandmother. She's not here anymore, and I still have that relationship with her, you know, and that's the part that I really want to stress is when you do the work of helping whoever you're supposed to help, whether it's your granddaughter, you know, go through life challenges, you always live. Yeah. You live forever and ever and ever.
That's true.
So
That's
this
true.
is definitely something, whether it's whatever language it's at, whatever, you know, wherever you are in the world, ultimately it's the love that you give and the love that you're willing to receive. And so I think on that note, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your heart with us today and being ready to step in and, you know, basically allow us to be a part of your journey, because as you grow, we also get a chance to grow.
Well, thank you very much, Malia. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for asking me, and I am thrilled to be part of your journey and to see your growth and your hard work. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for being here again. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I loved having you, as I always do, and I look forward to seeing you again next time on Tea with Malie.